Papoose just confirmed it. Not with a statement. Not with a post. Not with a press release. He confirmed it with the one thing a man in his position can never afford to do on camera. He confirmed it with a pause. Because when a journalist walked up to him and Claressa Shields at the 2026 BET Awards and asked the softest, most rehearsable question a red carpet has ever produced, Papoose, a man who has spent 20 years bragging about being the best-kept secret in hip-hop, could not find a single sentence that acknowledged Claressa Shields had taught him anything about love. Not one sentence. Not one line. Not one bar. He pivoted. He deflected. He turned a question about intimacy into a promo run for a State Farm Arena fight card, and in that exact moment, every single person who has been arguing for over a year that this relationship is a manufactured public arrangement got the receipt they never thought they would actually get on tape. Because here is what nobody wants to say out loud. The reason Papoose could not answer that question is not because he was nervous, it is not because he was caught off guard, it is not because red carpets are hard. The reason is that the honest answer would have detonated the entire arrangement, and he knows it, and she knows it, and the internet just watched them both know it in real time. Everything you thought you were watching between Papoose and Claressa Shields, the interviews, the events, the coordinated content, the ride-along vlogs, the boxing camp cameos, has been operating on a story you were told to believe, and there is a second story running underneath it, and the second story is the one that determines everything. When we get to the industry breakdown later in this video, the deal structure, the platform math, the Remy Ma legal situation, and the reason MVP allegedly pulled the plug, you are going to understand why this red carpet clip is not the story, it is the confession. And once you see the confession, you cannot unsee it. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Let me set the entire table for you because to understand why this specific week, this specific clip, and this specific hesitation on this specific red carpet matters so much, you have to understand where both of these people are standing in their public lives right now, in this exact month of 2026. Claressa Shields is, on paper, one of the most decorated women in the history of boxing. Two-time Olympic gold medalist. Undisputed champion across multiple weight classes. A woman who, if the story had stayed on the sports page, would be having conversations about legacy with names like Layla Ali and Wolf. But the story did not stay on the sports page. Starting in December of 2024, when Remy Ma reportedly posted screenshots that allegedly exposed a relationship between her still legal husband Papoose and Claressa Shields, the entire framing of who Claressa is in the public imagination shifted. Overnight, she stopped being Claressa the fighter and became Claressa the entanglement, and every decision she has made since that moment has, allegedly, made the framing worse rather than better. There have been crash-out lives. There have been rambling interviews where she gets asked one thing and answers another. There have been event after event where she shows up with Papoose functioning as a live-in hype man, and the culture has watched all of it and come to a very quiet, very unified conclusion. This does not look like love, it looks like a logistics agreement, and no amount of red carpet content is going to soften that red. And meanwhile, the accolades started slipping. In 2025, she lost the BET Sportswoman of the Year. In 2026, she lost it again, this time to Angel Reese, and Claressa reportedly said, and I quote, "I just thought accolades mattered," which is one of the most publicly wounded sentences a champion has said out loud in modern memory. Then she was nominated for the 2026 SB Best Fighter, went up against Terence Crawford, Gabriela Fundora, and Justin Gaethje, and lost in what Yahoo Sports reportedly described as a mind-blowing upset. Then there is the Alycia Baumgardner situation from May of 2026 at the MVP Netflix MMA event, where Claressa reportedly slapped Baumgardner in the VIP area, an incident that led to MVP allegedly banning Claressa from future events per ESPN and New York Times reporting. On top of that, Cris Cyborg has publicly offered her $2 million for a boxing match, and instead of accepting or declining like a champion, Claressa allegedly ignored it for months and then, suddenly, this exact week, started bringing Cyborg up for content. And on top of all of that, her next fight is only weeks away, and reports about her training conditions look nothing like the luxury facility content she used to post. So this is the environment we are stepping into when the BET Awards red carpet clip hits the internet. This is not a bad interview arriving on a random Tuesday. This is a bad interview arriving in the worst possible month of the worst possible year of her public image, and the question every single viewer should be asking themselves is very simple. If Claressa Shields and Papoose are as solid, as committed, and as in love as the two of them keep claiming on camera, then why does every single joint appearance they do make them look worse than the last one? Why does the story keep contradicting itself in front of us? And why, if the answer to a red carpet love question is supposed to be the easiest answer of their entire year, did neither of them have that answer ready? Let's start with what is actually on tape, because the surface evidence in this story is loud, it is public, and it stacks up very quickly once you line it up in order. In the new BET Awards clip that has been circulating, the interviewer walks up to Claressa and Papoose, greets them warmly, and asks a question so simple that most publicists would consider it a red carpet layup. What is the biggest lesson you have taught each other about love and success? That is not a hard question. That is not a gotcha. That is the exact question couples in a healthy public relationship dream about being asked, because it is designed to let you look glowing on camera. And Claressa Shields freezes. She reportedly starts, stops, starts again, and eventually lands on the answer that she taught Papoose to be super confident, to be cocky, and to not be ashamed of his gift. And the entire internet clocked the problem in the same second, because Papoose has been publicly cocky about his lyrical ability for 2 full decades. This is a man whose entire brand is the best-kept secret in hip-hop. This is a man who used to famously grab microphones during Remy Ma performances to freestyle. If there is one skill Papoose does not need coaching in, it is public confidence in his own gift, and Claressa allegedly not being able to think of a single other thing to say is, all by itself, a piece of evidence. Then the interviewer turns to Papoose and asks him the same question in reverse. What has Claressa taught you about love and success? And Papoose, allegedly the smoothest talker on any red carpet he has ever stepped on, does not answer the question. He reroutes it entirely. He starts talking about how being loved by Claressa is amazing, how she is not afraid to show her love to the entire world, how a lot of people hide their love and pretend it is something it is not, but she is the real deal. And then, right there on live camera, he pivots into promoting her upcoming fight at State Farm Arena. He converts a question about intimacy into a promotional bulletin for a boxing card. Because the honest answer is the one he cannot say out loud. To answer the actual question, he would have to describe something Claressa taught him about love, which would require acknowledging that he is emotionally participating in a full romantic relationship with a woman who is not his still legal wife. And so instead of walking into that trap, he does what a man in that specific position always does. He changes the subject, he moves the frame, he talks about the arena, the pull-up, the promo push, anything except the actual question. That is the moment. That is the confession. That is the tape. But it is not one clip. It is a pattern, and the second piece of surface evidence is the ebony red carpet moment that has also been circulating, where a journalist asked the two of them to describe what black music means to them in a single word. Papoose reportedly grabbed the mic first and immediately launched into a 6 or 7 word monologue, because Papoose cannot help himself when a microphone is in his hand, and Claressa was so visibly thrown off by his overtake of the moment that she allegedly could not think of anything else to say and just repeated the last word he had used, framing it as, "Oh, he took my word." 2 people. 1 microphone. 1 simple question. And they could not sync on it. That is not a couple that has been together long enough to know each other's rhythms. That is 2 co-workers running through a rehearsal for the first time. Then there is the third piece, the car ride footage on the way to the same BET Awards, where Claressa allegedly asked Papoose out loud whether this was their second or third BET Awards together. She could not remember. She could not remember how many major public events they had attended as a couple. And Papoose sitting right next to her did not correct her with any certainty either. When your entire public brand is built on how solid you two are, the smallest hesitation on the smallest question becomes the loudest possible evidence, because it does not match the story you are selling. And the fourth piece of surface evidence is the awards result itself. Claressa did not just lose the BET Sportswoman of the Year to Angel Reese. She then lost the ESPY Best Fighter to Terrence Crawford. 2 of the biggest recognition moments of her calendar year, back to back, and she publicly reacted to one of them by saying she thought accolades mattered. All of this is on tape. All of it is verifiable. And all of it points in the same direction. And oh, do I have more? Because if you think the surface layer is where the case ends, we have not even walked into the room where the industry people are talking yet. We have not gotten to what people close to Papoose have reportedly been saying about what this whole thing actually is. We have not gotten to Remy Ma. We have not gotten to Layla Ali. We have not gotten to what Cris Cyborg is doing behind the scenes. We have not gotten to the MVP ban paperwork or what it allegedly implies about her sponsorship trajectory. And to Claressa's remaining defenders who are already typing in the comments that this is entanglement erasure and that we are just mad she found love, I need you to sit tight, because in about 10 minutes I am going to walk you through the exact business framework that industry people close to the situation have reportedly been describing behind closed doors, and once you hear it, every single interview clip you have seen this year is going to reorganize itself in your head. This is the moment the picture stops being funny and starts being sad. Let's talk about who has been talking. Remy Ma sits at the center of the cultural gravity of this entire story, because Remy Ma is not just an ex-wife with a grievance. Remy Ma is a legend. She is a woman who did federal prison time and came home and rebuilt a full career. She is a woman who, for over a decade, was one half of the most publicly celebrated black love narratives in hip-hop, and Papoose stood next to her for every photograph, every interview, and every "he waited for her while she was locked up" cover story that the culture ever gave them. So when Remy Ma allegedly posted the December 2024 screenshots that opened this entire chapter, and then, according to reporting from the Griot in May of 2025, publicly offered to pay for Papoose's divorce lawyer and said Claressa Shields could chip in as well. That was not a scorned woman reacting. That was a woman who has already emotionally processed the situation, already moved past it, and is now watching her still legal husband make a fool of himself on the internet with a boxer, and calmly telling the culture, "Take him, I will help with the paperwork." The composure of that response is doing more cultural damage than any diss track could do, because it does not sound like anger, it sounds like closure, and closure from Remy Ma is the single most credible signal in this entire story. Then there is Laila Ali. The daughter of Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest women in the history of boxing, reportedly posted a throwback of herself holding her own BET Sportswoman of the Year trophy in the exact same week Claressa lost that same award to Angel Reese for the second year in a row. She did not tag anybody. She did not mention Claressa by name. She did not say a controversial word. She just posted the picture. And the entire internet understood exactly what she was doing. Because Laila Ali is the standard in this space. Laila Ali is the champion celebrated for craft, not for chaos. Having her quietly resurface her own win in the middle of a week where Claressa is being publicly criticized for the second year of losses was not shade, it was a mirror. And Claressa allegedly has to sit with that mirror. Then there is Cris Cyborg. The MMA legend has been calling Claressa out publicly for over a year. Cris Cyborg reportedly put $2 million on the table for a 2026 boxing match to determine the true greatest of women's combat sports. And for months and months, Claressa allegedly ignored her, acted like she was beneath the conversation, acted like the money was not real, acted like the offer did not exist. But now, suddenly, in this exact week, with the interview clips going viral and the awards losses stacking up, Claressa allegedly starts bringing Cris Cyborg up for content. Now she has thoughts. Now she has something to say. And what that tells you is very simple. That is a fighter reaching for a storyline change. That is a fighter who needs the room to look somewhere else. Cris Cyborg herself reportedly called it duck hunting season, which is one of the most surgical trash talk lines of the year, because it perfectly describes what is happening. Claressa is running from the fight that would actually settle the argument, and every time she runs, Cyborg gets louder, and the culture reads every dodge as an admission. Then there is Alycia Baumgardner, and this is where the story stops being pure entertainment. Because per ESPN reporting from May 2026, MVP, the promotion company running the Netflix MMA event where the alleged VIP slap happened, formally banned Claressa Shields from future events. That is not a rumor. That is not a message board argument. That is a business consequence. That is a boxer being told by a major promotional platform that her public behavior is no longer welcome on their properties. And Alycia Baumgardner reportedly walked out of that same period of time with her own competition reality show in development, which means the person who was allegedly slapped is walking away with a TV platform, and the person who allegedly did the slapping is walking away with a ban. That is the entire cultural verdict in one comparison. And I want to acknowledge the counter-argument here, because it deserves acknowledgement. Some people will say the entire pile-on around Claressa is misogynistic, that this is what happens when a black woman dates openly, that society hates a woman being in love out loud. And I hear it. I understand where that argument comes from. But it does not survive the actual timeline. Because the same women who were riding hard for Claressa when she was undefeated and unattached are the same women who are stepping back now, and the specific reason they are stepping back is not that she is dating, it is that she is dating a still legally married man who has not filed for divorce, and she is doing it repeatedly on camera while insisting nothing is wrong. That is not misogyny. That is a values check. And the culture ran the check and came back with a very clear answer. And now we have to shift gears completely, because everything we have talked about so far lives in the entertainment layer, the interview layer, the public perception layer. But if you stop there, you are watching the movie and missing the plot. The real story is a business story. It has always been a business story. And once you see the business structure underneath the entertainment surface, every clip you have watched this year is going to click into a completely different shape. Papoose, as a commercial rap artist, has never had a mainstream hit. He has been in the game for over 2 decades, and the commercial ceiling of his career was reached a long time ago. He is a talented lyricist, but the industry machinery that could have converted lyrical talent into major commercial success never assembled around him. His public relevance for years came through his marriage to Remy Ma, because when Love and Hip Hop New York was on the air, they were one of the most visible couples in reality television, and his brand equity was borrowed from that platform. When the show wound down, when the reality TV era of the mid-2010s ended, Papoose was left with a name most casual hip-hop fans recognized but did not follow. And that is the exact moment his relationship with Claressa Shields becomes, allegedly, not just a personal development but a career strategy. Because Claressa Shields, whatever the culture thinks of her personal behavior, is a global sports brand. She is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. She has fought on major networks. She has been the subject of full-length documentaries. She opens doors in sports media that will never open for a rapper of Papoose's commercial tier. And so what has been happening across the last year, whether it was planned or whether it evolved naturally, is that Papoose has been using her platform to insert himself into rooms he otherwise would not be in. Red carpets, sports media interviews, award shows, fight promotions. When Papoose appears on a BET Awards red carpet in 2026, that is not a Papoose booking, that is a Claressa Shields +1 arrangement. And when he uses a love and success question to promote her State Farm arena fight, that is not a boyfriend supporting his girl, that is a fading rapper allegedly using his partner's promotional infrastructure to keep his own name in circulation. The entertainment media does not want to say this out loud, but the pattern is right there in every clip. He does not answer questions about love. He answers questions about her fight schedule. He does not act like a partner. He acts like a promoter. And the industry has been watching this for a full year and drawing its own conclusions. But it goes deeper than that, because there is a second systemic layer, and this one is about the boxing industry itself. Women's boxing in 2026 is in a strange middle position. It has more visibility than it has ever had, thanks to Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, thanks to Alycia Baumgardner's rise, thanks to Claressa Shields herself. But it also has less institutional support than the men's side, which means every fighter's career depends more on personal branding than on institutional infrastructure. Which means when Claressa spends a full calendar year turning her personal life into content, she is not just risking her image, she is risking her marketability. She is risking her sponsorships. She is risking her network relationships. She is risking her promotional partnerships. And this is why the reports about her allegedly training at a Planet Fitness in the weeks before a major fight are so meaningful, because if the reports are accurate, and I want to be careful with that word, a fighter of her level does not visibly downgrade her training environment this close to a major bout unless resources have started to shift, and resources are always a downstream consequence of brand health. If the brand is in crisis, the resources move, the camp changes, and the world eventually sees it. And there is a third systemic layer, and this is the deepest one, and this is where the entire framework locks into place. Because the reason Claressa cannot outrun this entanglement narrative is not just that she is dating a married man. It is that the media ecosystem around her is no longer incentivized to protect her. The celebrity media machine only protects the people who feed it wins. When Claressa was undefeated and dominant, the machine insulated her because covering a winner made the machine look smart. But once the losses started stacking, the BET losses, the ESPY loss, the MVP ban, the training reports, the failed interview clips, the ignored Cyborg offer, the same machine that used to insulate her started amplifying every stumble. Because winners get protection and losers get content. And Claressa Shields is, allegedly for the first time in her adult career, on the losing side of the media incentive structure, and she does not yet seem to fully understand that the tide has turned. This is not a scandal cycle. This is a structural shift in how the machine is choosing to cover her, and until she wins something big and undeniable again, the machine is going to keep feeding on every embarrassing clip it can find. And so here is what I believe, and I want you to sit with this because it is the biggest claim I am going to make in this entire video. What we are watching, in real time, in front of us, is not a love story going through a rough patch. What we are watching is the slow-motion collapse of a manufactured public partnership that was allegedly held together by mutual utility, and the moment it stops being useful for either side, it is going to end, and it is going to end publicly, and it is going to end ugly. Because if this relationship were what they claim it is, the BET red carpet answer would have been the easiest answer they gave all year. Claressa would have said, without a single hesitation, this is what he taught me about being loved out loud, or this is what he taught me about believing in my own greatness, or this is what he taught me about weathering public criticism, because Papoose has been publicly criticized his entire career and would allegedly know something about that. And Papoose would have said, Claressa taught me how to be loved without shame, or Claressa taught me what discipline looks like inside a home, or literally anything that acknowledged an actual emotional exchange between two human beings. Neither of them did that. Neither of them could. Because you cannot describe an emotional exchange that is not happening. You cannot articulate a lesson you were not taught. You cannot fake intimacy on a red carpet in front of a camera trained by decades of celebrity coverage to catch exactly this kind of mismatch, and that camera caught them, and now the clip is on the internet forever. And once the clip is on the internet forever, the interpretation is on the internet forever with it. And the consequences of that interpretation extend far past a single bad interview. Because if this arrangement is what it appears to be, then every other piece of Claressa's public year suddenly makes a very specific kind of sense. The BET losses make sense because voters allegedly are punishing behavior. The ESPY loss makes sense because voters allegedly are recognizing that the drama has become louder than the accomplishments. The MVP ban makes sense because business partners are allegedly protecting their platforms from behavior they can no longer sponsor. The cyborg avoidance makes sense because a fighter whose brand is in crisis cannot afford to lose a $2 million spectacle fight and cannot afford to duck it either, which is exactly the trap she is stuck in. And the Planet Fitness reports, if accurate, make sense because a fighter whose resources are shifting is a fighter whose team is quietly adjusting downward, one line item at a time. Every piece of the puzzle points in the same direction, and the direction is not toward a woman in love. It is toward a woman in crisis, allegedly using a public relationship as a life raft, while the man in that relationship is allegedly using her platform as a career lifeline. That is the truth bomb. That is what industry people have reportedly been saying behind closed doors for months. That is what the interviews keep accidentally confirming every time a microphone gets close enough to catch it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every future clip is going to make more sense to you now. Every future interview is going to land differently. Because you finally have the framework, and the framework is very simple. This is not love, this is logistics. But here is the good news, because I do not want anybody leaving this video feeling hopeless about women's boxing or about the state of black love in the public eye. The good news is that the right people are still winning. Angel Reese won that BET Sportswoman of the Year for a reason. She has been working, she has been visible, she has been representing her sport with a kind of public discipline that the voters rewarded, and the voters were right to reward it. Terence Crawford won that SB Best Fighter for a reason. He has been dominant in the ring, quiet outside of it, and the culture responded to that combination the way the culture is supposed to respond. Cris Cyborg is still standing there, still waiting, still pushing for the fight that would actually settle the greatest of all-time argument in women's combat sports, still doing it with her name on the line and her money on the table, still refusing to let the conversation get diluted by drama. Alycia Baumgardner is walking into her own reality television platform that she reportedly earned. Remy Ma is still Remy Ma, still one of the most respected women in the entire history of the genre, still moving with a level of grace that only comes from actually knowing who she is and refusing to let the story define her. And Laila Ali is still the standard, still the reminder that a champion's legacy gets built on the quiet accumulation of undeniable work, not on the loud accumulation of viral moments. One fighter is out here making music that never charted. The other is out here making history that never gets erased. That is the entire lesson of this story in one sentence. And Claressa Shields, if she chooses to hear it, still has time to write a completely different ending. That is the mercy of being a champion. The door back to greatness is never fully closed, it just gets heavier to open the longer you avoid it. She still has a fight coming up. She can still win. She can still put the gloves back on, do the work, and let the ring say what the interviews cannot. But that path requires a choice, and the choice is very simple. Focus on the sport. Log off. Handle her personal life privately, the way champions used to handle it before every waking moment became content. And most importantly, allegedly, let a married man become an unmarried man before the next red carpet, or let him walk that carpet alone. The culture is not asking for much. The culture is asking for the champion it used to see, and if she can find her way back to that person, this entire chapter can become a footnote instead of a defining era of her career. But I do not think she is going to make that choice. And that is exactly why this story is only the start. Because in the next few weeks, we have her fight coming up, and every single thing we discussed today, the training reports, the brand crisis, the loss streak, the interview problems, is going to get tested in the ring on live television, and whatever happens inside that ring is going to either reset her career or accelerate the collapse, and there is no middle result. And beyond that fight, we have the Cris Cyborg situation still hanging over her, still unresolved, still worth $2 million whenever she finally decides to acknowledge it. And we have the ongoing Papoose divorce situation, which cannot stay in legal limbo forever, and whenever that finally moves in one direction or the other, this entire narrative is going to shift again. This is why you have to be subscribed to this channel right now. Because when the fight card goes final, when the Cyborg announcement drops, when the divorce paperwork surfaces, this is the channel that is going to connect every dot for you the same way we connected them today, and you do not want to be catching up when it happens. You want to be ahead of it. So if you have made it all the way to this point in the video, first of all, you are amazing and I appreciate you more than you know. Drop a comment telling me who you think comes out of this next fight cycle looking the worst, Claressa, Papoose, or the media ecosystem that keeps propping the whole arrangement up, and if you want the full deep dive on the exact reason MVP allegedly banned Claressa Shields from every future event on their platform and what that ban is quietly doing to her ongoing sponsorship negotiations, that video is the next one on this channel, and I promise you the paper trail on that story is worse than anything we covered today. The names in that story are bigger. The money in that story is bigger. And the fallout in that story is going to be the one that finally forces a public statement out of the people who have been silent through all of this. Do not miss it. I will see you in the next one.